Anybody going up to the sauerkraut suppers?
I'm picking one up.
Oh,
Huh?
crap.
Picking
I
one
forgot my ticket. It's sitting on my desk.
I feel naked. I left my cell phone at home. I'm not going to do that.
I gotta pick one up.
Good afternoon. We'd like to call this regular meeting of the Nolan Planning Commission to order. It's Thursday, September 27th, 2018, 4:30 p.m. Item 1 would be to approve the minutes of the August 30th, 2018 meeting.
I'll make-
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Well, then I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second approving the minutes as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, consider for approval the final plat of the Ittinger addition.
Okay. The applicant is Josh Sabatino. The property owner is Ittinger LLC. Current legal description is lots 9 through 14, block 52 south of Center Street. Street address is 1301 to 1323 South Minnesota Street. Property is zoned R3, which is a multiple family residence district. City Council approved the preliminary plat with conditions at its September 4th, 2018 meeting. Background information on the request: the property is located east of South Minnesota Street and south of 13 South Street. Property is undeveloped. Property to the south and east is zoned R3, to the north R2, and to the west B2. Property to the east is occupied by duplexes, a supervised living facility, and townhomes. To the north, single-family dwellings. To the west, the Riverbend Area Learning Facility. And to the south, a supervised living facility, and then bus garages. The plat would divide each of the 6 existing lots into 2 smaller lots. Lots 9 through 13 would accommodate twin homes. The end lot, or lot 14, would accommodate 2 separate single-family dwelling units. The property has a total lot area of 1.14 acres. The city code requires a separate lot for each privately owned dwelling unit, with the exception of condominium projects. The property is zoned R3, but the city code allows R2 land uses in the R3 zoning district as regulated therein. And I think, as I explained last month, as regulated therein means that a an R2 use uses R2 zoning regulations for development purposes. The plat requires the following variances in order to construct twin homes on lot 3 and 4, lot 5 and 6, lot 7 and 8, lot 9 and 10, and lot 11 and 12. The lot width, which is 25 feet, 50 feet is required. The lot area, which is 4,125 square feet, and 6,000 is required. The side yard setback between lots would be 0 feet, and 5 is required. And the variances were all approved at the City Council September 4th meeting. Comprehensive plan designates the property for high-density residential land uses. Comprehensive plan does not designate a park within the platted area. Utilities to serve the property are located in South Minnesota Street, and each side of the twin home will require its own sanitary sewer and water end service. Status of conditions required for plat approval: pay the platting fee of $510. That payment is pending. Pay the plat parkland dedication fee of $2,040. That payment is pending. Secure variances, as I noted, that's been approved. Provide an electronic file of the plat. That notification has been provided to the applicant and land surveyor. And then provide a letter on how existing street assessments on South Minnesota Street will be split. In the report, it says that the letter is pending. That letter has been provided to the city. Attached are copies of the final plat and an aerial photograph of the property. Potential motions: you can recommend approval of the final plat of the Ittinger addition with conditions. or you can recommend denial, and you would have to have stated reasons to do so.
Thoughts?
Did anything change on the final plat versus the, okay.
I'd move to recommend approval of the final plat edition with conditions as noted.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second recommending approval with the conditions presented. Any further discussion? I have one question there. Are there any issues with those payments that are pending? Just time. There's no,
Until it's all approved, so payments.
okay. Right? Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That will go to the city council on next Tuesday?
That is correct.
Pardon me?
That is correct.
Consider to the item 3, to consider the approval of the preliminary plot of the depot second edition.
Okay, the applicant in this case is the Canadian Pacific Railway. The property owner is the Canadian Pacific Railway and HEICO, which is a general partnership. HEICO, the property that they own is occupied by Hyman Construction Company. Current legal description is Lot 1, Block 1 Depot Edition and part of South German Park. Street address is 200 South Valley Street. Zoning, we have two different districts in this case. One is I-2 and the other is B-2. Property is located west of South Valley Street and north of 3rd South Street. The property is the location of the Canadian Pacific Railroad Depot and a storage building used by Hyman Construction Company. The HEICO property is zoned I-2, the CP property is zoned B-2. The surrounding area is zoned I-2. Comprehensive plan designates the property for industrial land uses. Property to the east, north, and south is used for railroad purposes. Property to the north and south is used for industrial purposes. Hyman Construction Company is located to the west, along with some self-storage units. The plat would create one lot. I might note that the reason that we're dealing with just one lot is we are adding a parcel of property to an existing lot, but that new parcel of property had no frontage on a public street. So it couldn't stand by itself. It had to be attached to a parcel of property that did have frontage on a street. The new lot would have a total area of 1.91 acres. Comprehensive plan does not designate a park within the platted area. Utilities to serve the property are located in South Valley and 3rd South Streets. The plat would permit the transfer of property, which is in this case a storage building, from HEICO to the Canadian Pacific. And the storage building that we're talking about, if you look at the aerial photo, it is the white building. The property lines surrounding the building being sold to the Canadian Pacific Railway will comply with city setback requirements. Attached is a copy of the preliminary plat, a zoning map showing the location of the property, an aerial photo, and then 3 ground level photographs. Staff would recommend approval of the preliminary plat subject to the following conditions. Pay the platting fee of $180, base fee of $150 and $30 for each platted lot. Provide an electronic file of the plat in an AutoCAD 2000 or newer format, and then provide a legal description for the remaining portion of the HEICO property. So what is happening is we have an existing legal description for the HEICO property, and now we're taking a piece of that away. And so Brown County, I know, is going to be asking us for a new legal description for that Hyman parcel. Potential motions, you can recommend approval of the preliminary plat with conditions, or you can recommend denial of the preliminary plat for stated reasons. Just one other thing I'd like to add. The reason we've got a B2 zoning district in this location is that many years ago, an individual approached the city about the possibility of establishing a restaurant in the depot building. And the Canadian, or the forerunner of the Canadian Pacific was agreeable to doing that. That would have been the DM&E. It never took place, but the zoning of the property as B2 has stayed in place.
Okay. Thoughts? Concerns?
I'll offer, recommend approval of the preliminary plot of the depot second edition with conditions.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, recommending approval of the preliminary plot for the depot second edition with conditions as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4, discuss parking requirements for the B3 General Business District zoning district.
Okay, at last month's meeting, we discussed this subject, and I advised you that we would attempt to identify some options for you to look at, perhaps, or before proceeding with making any decisions or recommendations. Since last month's meeting, we did establish a committee to kind of consider the subject. I think we've got 4 or 5 people on that committee. We have, to date, we've met with 3 different individuals or groups to talk about the subject. And that's kind of where we're at the present time. I will be preparing a summary of potential options. And that summary then will be distributed to the members of the committee. And if they concur with what I have written, we will prepare a final report and then submit that to you, so that will be completed in time for next month's meeting.
Is there representation from this commission on that committee?
No, it's strictly staff.
Okay.
And I would, with the report will come a recommendation as to steps that could be taken. And then it'll be up to you as to how you want to proceed. That's it.
That's it. Moving on, received report of City Council decisions from the Planning Commission of September.
Okay, as you heard earlier, the preliminary plat of the Ittinger addition was recommended for approval. They approved with conditions the application of Lonnie Carpenter on behalf of New Beginnings Church for a conditional use permit to locate a church at 324 20th South Street. I can advise you that apparently that sale has been completed. They approved with conditions the application of Dennis Bianchi requesting a conditional use permit to allow storage facilities on property zone B2 at 1601 to 1619 South State Street. And I'll be going back to that particular item at the end of my report. They approved the request of Josh Sabatino for the variances for his plat. And then they approved allowing city staff to secure a proposal for professional services to provide a stormwater drainage study for the area that is going to be the location of our new industrial park. And that is situated between the Canadian Pacific Railroad and that park. That will be the study area that we will be looking at. one of the things that during the term that I've been with the city, that when it comes to development, stormwater has become is probably the primary development challenge that we're faced with. It used to be, getting water and sanitary sewer to the site, and that's not so much the case anymore. At the September 18th meeting, they conducted a public hearing and then approved a resolution authorizing the use of tax abatement for the DLC Manufacturing and Fabrication Project at 24 Thompson Street. And we have received most of the building plans,
Yes,
and the building permit
yes, yeah.
has been issued.
Not, he hasn't paid for it yet, but first part of next week, the way it sounds, it'll
Really,
be
huh?
good to go. Yep.
They also then approved a resolution for a development and business subsidy agreement with DLC. That's required as part of the tax abatement process. And then they approved the preliminary 2019 budget and set a public hearing date for December 4th on that. I want to go back to Dennis Bianchi's request. At last month's meeting, I didn't describe the request correctly to you. One of the things that I didn't tell you and that I should have is that the property is zoned B2. That property designation does not disappear with his request. So that property remains zoned in that classification, and all of the permitted uses in that particular district can locate on that property. So his request was for storage buildings. So if there are storage buildings located on that property, then the conditions apply to those storage buildings, but they don't apply to other uses if they're permitted in the B2 zoning district. So I apologize for not stating that and letting you know that. So if Mr. Bianchi wishes to sell a lot to allow commercial parking to take place there, for a business that's located across the alley in a B2 zoning district, then in the past we have allowed that type of use to take place. So that would be permissible. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Does he know that?
Yeah, I had a conversation with him.
Okay. Anything from the Heritage Preservation?
We did not have a meeting this month.
Question for you, with this deal going on at the depot, is the Heritage involved in anything that we might do down there?
Only would be with the depot itself.
The building itself?
Yeah.
Other than that?
Yep, nothing would come involved with that.
Okay. Anything else?
I do have a comment. Unfortunately, I presented my letter of resignation from the commission to Mayor Boisman today. I've purchased a home outside of the city limits. So by city code, I'm required to be a citizen of the community, and I will no longer be so at the end of October. So the October 25th meeting, if there is one, will be my last meeting, unfortunately. It's been great to serve. If I wasn't moving, I would stay on the commission, but unfortunately, that is not an option for
So
me.
we don't even get an option to reject your thing
No,
because
you
you're leaving
don't.
town, huh?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Well, we're sorry to see you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be leaving.
Did he indicate that he would try to refill that again before January?
Well, I just kind of let him know today. So
Okay.
I would assume that maybe he might wait until the beginning of the year. I'm not for certain.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor hasn't said anything. I should note that there will be an October meeting.
Okay, anything else? No further business, meeting is adjourned.
So we